Hey there, it's Katie Jarvis with Managing the Mess. If we haven't met before, I'm a K through 6 elementary art teacher at a Title I school just outside of Washington, D.C. In this video, we're going to be talking about art room organization. I do need to give a little quick disclaimer that this is going to be some reality art teacher organization. We are currently in the fourth quarter at my school, and I think we have about 6.5 days left of school. So this isn't a shiny, clean, beginning of the year art room tour. This is the very end and the organization that has been able to survive through the school year. The first thing I'm going to share is how I organize these drawers on wheels. Now, this is right as you enter into my art room, and the drawer that I have on top here, I keep two different things. The first thing is I keep ketchup folders. Now, this is just a piece of construction paper that I have folded in half and put a little label on top that I got from Teachers Pay Teachers. And ketchup for me is work that students are not finished on that they want to catch up on when we have that ketchup and pickle day. So I don't label this with a class or anything. I just simply put the artwork from that class that needs to be caught up on and put this inside of their larger class folder. Now, I also keep in here packs of what I call table folders. So these are 18 by 12 construction paper that's laminated and folded in half. And I would put these out if we have like a planning sheet or a smaller piece of artwork, and students simply just put their artwork inside of the color that matches their table. I would collect them back and then clip these together and then put this inside the larger class folder. Now, my whole system of organizing and managing the artwork is actually in another video, so I'm going to link that down below. Now, my other drawers here are labeled with the grade levels that I teach. I teach K through 6, so there's a drawer for each grade level, and that's where I keep current papers and supplies for the lesson. So if we have tracers, if we've got certain colors of construction paper that we're using, those items would be in these drawers so I can easily get them and transition between classes. At the bottom here, I've got two drawers that are labeled, and this is where I keep my examples. So I simply just keep all the examples from kindergarten clipped together with one of these big, large binder clips, and I keep that inside the drawer. I separate it between K through 2 is on the top, and then 3 through 5 is down below. And I like to take a Sharpie, that silver, or a paint marker and label the binder clips so I can quickly tell what grade level it is. So these are my objective posters. So this is something that I hang up along with my example so students know what we are making that day. This is where I would hang my objective posters. I hang them on a different colored piece of construction paper on my cabinet so that they're displayed and students know what we are working on for that class period. I got several questions asking about where do I store the student artwork? Well, I keep the class folders on these two little shelves in my closet, and I just pull out the ones that I need for that day. So on the label, I put what grade level it is, the name of the teacher, and then what day that I see them, so I can grab all the Monday folders at the same time. This filing cabinet is where I keep all my smaller resources for my lessons. So this is organized by grade level, but it's also organized by project. So if I open this one here in the middle and opened up to here, this first folder here, this would just be one project. So this is the 3rd grade yarn weaving. And inside of here, I have copies of graph paper that we will use to plan out the pattern of our weaving. And I also have copies of a chart that we use to measure our weaving from week to week to see that we are making progress. Now, what I've done is I have made a little bit of a header on the file folder by stapling on a piece of Astro Bright paper. So this is that really bright cardstock that I'm using. And I did use a template that I got from Teachers Pay Teachers. I will link it down below, but this is something you could really easily replicate on your own. I simply write or type in the grade level here and then the name of the project. When I'm stapling it down, you'll see from the inside there that I've stapled it so that there's about an inch above the folder so that I can see all of the headings when I open up my file folder to get these. Now, this is where I store all my projects throughout the year. I'm going to show you next where I would store my current handouts and worksheets that I'm using in the classroom right now. I keep my current resources and handouts for students in these plastic rainbow drawers. I really like this model. I will link a description down below to which one this is. I got mine at Michael's, but I don't think they're available at Michael's anymore. You may want to check Amazon or the Container Store if you're interested in getting these as well. I have 2 for each grade level because I will keep the resources and handouts in there throughout that quarter. So if I have a student that was absent or behind, it's really easy to get those materials out for them. At the end of every quarter, then I would take everything from out of here and put it back into my file folders. I'm in the process of reorganizing how I use this space in my room, but I'm going to share my thinking with you. During this school year, I found myself in the morning taking things off the drying rack and putting them here. Or classes would finish a project and I would clip them together and I would put them here. So by the end of the day, there would be stacks of artwork here blocking so that I could not get into these drawers and use them. And I think even once or twice there was an avalanche right here of papers that spilled onto the floor. So in the coming school year, I'm labeling these top 2 drawers to be graded. And my theory is I'm going to put the papers in there and then I'm going to grade them before it gets to the point where the drawers will not open and close. This drawer down here, I still need to add a label to that, but what I keep in here are my display signs. So I organize these by grade levels, a lot like how I do my project examples. And here is where I would have a sign that goes up with the artwork. So that's when I'm hanging up for my 5th grade abstracted cartoon characters. I also really like to type up objectives. So students will see what was learned by students in other grade levels, and adults that are viewing this will also be able to see that as well. At times, if we're using different tools and materials that people might not be familiar with, I have little cutouts of the different tools that are used and vocabulary from that lesson. Now I keep those all in that drawer, so it's really quick and easy for me to set up displays. The next drawer here is for my emergency subplans, and I really recommend that you have something like this all set up and ready to go. I think it was last year, my daughter got sick, and I was able to pull this all out in about 30 seconds and be able to walk out the door with my sick kid and have someone come in and cover my classes. So you really want things to be that easy, because if you do have an emergency, that's not when you want to be scrolling Teachers Pay Teachers and trying to find a plan. Now, I actually always leave the same plan for my sub for all of the grade levels just to make things really simple. And I leave them these foam dice that are from Oriental Trading, which is like a party website. Those are really cheap and inexpensive, but they're a little bit bigger so they don't get lost like the smaller dice you might have. And I print out these activities. There are roll the dice activities that you might be familiar with. One of the creators that I really like is Glitter Meets Glue. She does fabulous stuff. And this one was a Romero Brito inspired owl. So I would laminate these and have a class set ready to go. I make the artwork, so I make like the different steps and have all of that set up so that they can just clip this on the board, step 1, step 2, step 3, and they don't have to read through everything in my lesson plan, because let's face it, they might not have time to do that. If you've ever subbed before, you know it's incredibly difficult to be a sub. So just please make it easy for these people. If they're willing to come in and cover for you, do whatever you can to make their lives easier. And then I copy the owls onto construction paper. So this is the 12 by 18 construction paper. Now, if you didn't know, you can copy on construction paper using your copy machine at your school. I have a video all about that. I'll link it in the description down below, but it works great for these subplans. So I would have these, probably about 100 of these copied and ready to go. So if I was gone for a couple of days, there are enough of this project in there to cover a couple of days within my schedule. Now, I'm also sure to write up what the plans are and some basic things about my art room management so that they can run my class easily. I'd also type up directions of how do you make copies for construction paper on the copier, for the copier that you have at your school. So if they run into a situation where I'm gone for a week and they do need to make more copies, they have the information of how exactly to go about doing that. Now, the last drawer here I have at the bottom, I'm thinking because these are so heavy, I'm gonna make a drawer filled with labels. So these are the Avery mailing address labels. I do use these for labeling all of my student artwork. I do not have them write their name on it. I label the artwork using this. So I end up having a lot of these really big, heavy boxes. And at the end of every quarter, I print new ones for the coming quarter. So that's when I, change things out if students have moved seats, which I don't do very often, but if I do, I make those changes there. If we have any new students, if people have moved, that's when I would go through and then make more copies on here. This is a part of my room that I affectionately call the art room buffet, because students are supposed to help themselves to these items. The only items that are not for students are the gold and silver paintbrushes. I just keep them here because it's very convenient, because it is located right by my classroom door. Now, my gold and silver paintbrushes are part of my behavior management system, and I have a video all about that. I will link it also in the description down below. In my art buffet, I keep pencils. Now, these are extra pencils. I have another spot in my classroom where I keep the pencils, but these ones are here so that we can trade them out as needed. Also, if we happen to find a pencil on the floor, we don't have to walk all the way over to the other side of the room to put it away. I keep my erasers here in ice cube trays. And at the beginning of the year, I do use full-size erasers. What I do is I have a happy and sad board where we're keeping track of the class's behavior. And if any erasers are missing at the end of class, that's how many frowns the class earns. So they really work together to make sure the erasers are taken care of and that they are properly put back in these spots. I will have students actually, call out to everyone else, hey, we're missing 3 erasers. And then it becomes like a Scooby-Doo mystery where they're all looking around the room trying to find those missing erasers. It is the second half of the year, though. We're near the bitter end. So I've cut my erasers in half just to help us to survive to the end. I keep my glue sticks here along with extra lids so students can put those on as needed. Same thing with my permanent markers. There's a little cup inside of there for extra lids. I keep pens here in this buffet. We use those for printmaking and scratch art, and I do let students use those as an option for like planning sheets and exit tickets as it is appropriate. We use hole punchers. There are rulers here. There are decorative scissors. And then this is where I have been keeping my liquid bottles of glue. I haven't really been using these much. I have been using the glue jars with a little brush inside of them more often, but I did start off the school year out with just those. And so that's where they are right now. I keep my student scissors in these little over-the-door shoe organizers, and this works the same way as the erasers. So at the end of class, if any of the scissors are missing, the students would look for them, and if they're unable to find them, each scissors that is missing is a frown for the class on our behavior management system. Up here near the front of my room, my 6th graders are currently doing some projects where they are using metallic markers. So I have these in a basket along. I always put a little cup, like a yogurt cup in there where we can store extra lids. And this is also where I keep my ultrafine Sharpies, because these are not for all the students to use, but it's something that I'm keeping up just for the older students to use. This is where I keep my classroom job tags. I have a video about my job tags. I will link that down below if you're interested. This is also where I keep my labels. So these are labels that I'm using if students are catch-up. So that means that they have not finished their assignment, but the class is all ready to move on. They would like to request a little bit more time to work on it, so they can stick one of those tags on there. I really need to redo this because these 2 things here are some older things that I use, but I had done in the past a mystery artist where I picked a student. So I kept these here so it was really convenient for me to fill out here as students were leaving. And in the past, I had done a note to parents for behavior with a reminder about the rules. Now my school currently does a talking points app. So there's a way just to text parents directly, and that's a lot more effective than hoping that that gets home in a backpack. So when I'm organizing things for next year, I'm gonna probably change these out. I could see making one of these just the regular plain labels, because I use those for printing out student name tags for artwork, and it'd be convenient to have that here. And then maybe I may put like some decorative paper that I'm using to make different signs and things throughout my room. That might be a good spot to organize that. Next, I'm going to show you the area behind my desk. So up here, I have my grade books, and I have them organized by grade level in rainbow order, which definitely makes sense to my art teacher brain. Now, my grade books, I have some extra ones down here I can show you without student names on them. They are plastic folders with that little 3-prong on the inside. In my real grade books, I have the seating chart on the outside where I write their names in pencil, and then I write their daily effort grade in those little boxes that you see there. I will have a log inside for student behavior, as well as a note that I send home to the classroom teacher. Now, this is where I would store those student name tag labels. Those would be inside of those gradebook folders so that they are ready to go each and every week. Next to my gradebook folders, I have this awesome little, I guess you call this a tackle box kind of a thing. And this was definitely the rage a couple of years back for teachers. You can get these little printouts on Teachers Pay Teachers that fit perfectly the size of the drawers. And this is all those little odds and ends that might be in the bottom of your desk. It's just a much easier way to organize the things. Just be sure that you make your students aware that this is not for them, that this is for you. I had a student that, like midway through the year, totally sweet kid, was like, I just think it's so nice that you provide, comfort items for students like chocolate. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he pointed to my chocolate drawer, which you need in your life, but you do not want to share with your students. So make sure that they understand that this area is just for you. I also have another one of these little rainbow towers. It's kind of like the baby version of the one where I keep my student folders. This is new to me, and I did just recently get it from Hobby Lobby. Up in the top is where I keep my tech equipment. I keep pens and pencils, thank you cards, labels. So this is like those fun, cutesy little, hello, my name is, and decorative labels that you get from the teacher store that I might use to label a box or something. And then the bottom one is where I keep all of my Post-it notes. In the back of my room, I have another student supply area. On the top, I call this Pennsylvania. So this is where the pencils live. And it's where I keep my pencil cups that students will place on the table when we are needing those. Underneath Pennsylvania, this is where I store my crayons. And I've got videos all about how I manage the pencils and manage to organize the crayons. I do separate my crayons out into different containers. So I have one that's just for skin colors that we use less often. I've got one for all of my special crayons. And I've got another one that's just all of my regular crayons that is down below. I hope this video was helpful for you. I make videos just like this every single week with organization and classroom management tips for art teachers. I hope that you'll like and subscribe.